Mr. President, did you or did you not, however, raise the prospect of sending slaves or former slaves to colonize themselves and outside of the United States in South or Central America?
And the Liberian situation, and I corrected myself here tonight, quoting my friend Frederick Douglass, and it was an idea. It made sense to me at the time that if folks aren't happy here, they might have an opportunity to go somewhere. But Douglass reminded me, he said, Mr. President, they're all American. And I dispensed with that notion. So I guess once the milk was spilled, we cleaned it up, but we can't go putting it back in the cup again. So I didn't go back there. And my critics will say I was slow on emancipation. Now, I admit I walk slow, but I don't walk backward. And to the notion of signing that emancipation, some of those very cabinet members said, Lincoln, take it back, take it back. And I said, I have signed it, and it is done. So I hope I'm clear once and for all on the emancipation issue. And if I'm not, talk to Blanchett at the saloon when you get there.
Mr. President, on the lighter note that you had asked for, you mentioned a few moments ago.
Thank you. Thank you.
You mentioned a few moments ago that reconciliation was the goal of your final term. Does that mean you have no plans to run for a third term as president? And what are your plans then at the end of your presidency? Do you plan to return to Springfield?
Now that the surrender is signed, I've had ample time to think on that, sir. I think when this term closes, I'd like to see the Pacific Ocean. Where's my friend from Israel? Is he left? I met him on the street out front, on the steps. I want to see the Holy Land. And I think I'll come back, and that sign's still up in front of Billy's office. I think we'll pick up the practice of law like it left off, like I'd never left. And maybe start a garden and plant potatoes. I think potatoes. I think that's what I'll do, sir.
Since we're on the issue of what you plan to do, what about the rest of your family? There has been concern, since you are in your second term, your wife didn't like you involved in politics and Shirley didn't like you involved with this war. What is going on in terms of her health? There has been some concern about depression over losing the sons, and now with you continuing on with the second term, how will she deal with that as well?
I love Mother as I did when I first met her. And what's better, I haven't fallen out of love. Now, I admit this administration was preoccupied with the momentous issue of civil war. But that issue is now gone. So maybe on that travel to Israel and the Pacific Ocean, we'll have time to reflect on things. Robert has a good education, and Taddy, well, it'll be soon enough that he can learn his numbers and letters and get all pokey. And I think that's what we'll be up to.
So what's it like living in Springfield before you came to D.C.?
Oh, Springfield? And most of you have made a trip from there, I'm recollecting. How are things? How's Billy? Do you see Billy? I'm thinking, because he's probably at the saloon you're all going to. I figured that out. Billy's been a good friend. Is he keeping the law office going?
Lots of kids all around, too. Making lots of memories.
So the place is still tore up, is what you're saying. Well, we'll fix that when we get there. How about the Marine Bank? Do you get by there much? Now, if you leave a card with your boss's name, your editor, I'd be happy to make a call on your. Could you take care of that, Blanchett? Get their names and get the editors. Send a telegraph message. But they look dressed fine to me. Springfield was an up-and-coming place. Now, a number of the streets were muddy. And heard tell the Capitol's in fine place. Do you see the Capitol when you're back there? How's it look? I was in a hall during the Republican convention of '58. It was hotter than blazes. Standing room only crowd, blistering hot. And that's where I laid out Senator Douglas like a butchered beef right there in two. In that hall I said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. This government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. I do not expect the Union to be dissolved. I do not expect the house to fall. I do expect it will cease to be divided. It'll become all one thing or all the other. And then we kicked off a senatorial election campaign like nobody'd ever seen in Illinois, let alone Springfield. Those were grand days. And the courts on the 8th Circuit. Some fine lawyers on the 8th Circuit.